The Minnesota Wild leave Denver in an 0-2 hole with more questions than answers after losing Game 2 5-2. On today's special crossover edition of Locked On Avalanche and Locked On Wild, we look at some of the burning questions heading back to St. Paul and how the Avalanche set the tone in Game 2.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
Hey, this is Marcus Foligno, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to a crossover episode of Locked On Avalanche and Locked On Wild. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day, and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Always appreciated. Avs win this thing 5-2. So they are not only up 2-0 in the series, they are undefeated so far in these playoffs. A nice 6-0, and this thing heads back to Minnesota. A lot to talk about with this one. I think there was a lot of eyes on this after people heard about that 15-goal gunslinger shootout in Game 1. What would Game 2 give? Wild make the goalie change, and we'll talk about a lot of it. I want to get your thoughts. First, 5-2 game. How do you think the Wild did in this thing? I mean, there's got to be things that obviously that you are not too happy with after this game.
It was better.
In that it was not 15 goals better.
Yeah. So here's kind of where I'm at, Chris, with this. Offensively, I think the Wild have done a good job of pushing and getting to the net for the most part. There was a little bit of a kind of a move away from that in Game 2. Like in Game 1, they were crashing the net like crazy, which is, I think, how you have to attack Scott Wedgwood in this series. You got to get up to the net and you got to feast on those rebounds. You got to get up in close. The Wild did a great job of that in Game 1. They kind of went away from that a little bit in Game 2. The big story for me is the goaltending. I mean, I know not all of it was on Jesper Wallstedt in Game 1. I was leery about making a change because Filip Gustavsson hadn't played in 6 weeks, in 3 weeks. It felt like 6. And we saw that on the first goal that he gave up. He did not handle it cleanly, and it goes in to give the Avs the 1-0 lead. Third goal, that's one that 90% of the time you want to see your goalie make the save on. But I understand what I understand what John Hynes is going for, and a lot of people are saying, you're giving Jesper a breather. You are doing this in the hopes that it sparks the whole team, and if it doesn't, you go back to Jesper at home. And you just throw everything that you have in front of him. But I think the other thing that has become pretty woefully apparent in this series is like they're just, when you're playing a team like the Colorado Avalanche, who were the best team in the NHL for the entirety of the season, and a team that is coached in the manner that they are, with a guy that I think should be. I know you guys have talked about it a lot, so I'm not breaking any news to Avs fans.
Yeah.
A guy who should be a finalist for the Jack Adams on almost a yearly basis, Jared Bednar. It just does such a good job of getting everybody in the lineup to play hard. It's noticeable on the top line. It's noticeable on line 2, line 3, line 4. Like, those guys just go and they hustle. They skate fast. They're physical. They have moved Wild players off the puck. And at the end of Game 2, it looks like the Avs got a little bit of a whiff of blood in the water. And they started to really get physical. Nathan MacKinnon knocking Quinn Hughes off the puck, knocking Matt Boldy off the puck late in the game. It just felt like the Avs kind of got a sense of blood in the water at the end of Game 2. And they said, all right, let's close this out. Let's finish this up. They made life really tough for the Wild at the end of the second. The special teams is an abject nightmare for the Minnesota Wild in this series. The penalty kill is at 50%, and that feels high. The power play is, I think, 2 for their last 27. And power play, as far as looks go, was better. but it doesn't really give you that much of a sense of hope unless you score power play goals.
Right.
Like, you can generate as many power play opportunities as you want. If you don't score goals, it's still a failure.
Sure.
So I'm not going to hit the level of despair that I hit after game 3 against the Stars, because we're seeing the hockey. We're seeing the hockey being played in this series, which is different from what it was Wild Stars. So if the Wilds just elevate to a man, I think they can play with this Avs team. But we have not seen that yet. We have not seen that level of up your game from everybody in this lineup. And you are not going to be given anything by this Avs team. You're not going to be given any opportunity. You have to go earn what you get against them. Rightfully so. But the Wilds, to this point, they just have not generated enough opportunities to be able to stick in these games. And that's why they're down 0-2.
Well, you mentioned Jared Bednar, and one thing I have always said about that man is, I mean, the Avs are not perfect. They're going to have games where, you know, things are not to their liking. And game 1, even though they won, both teams were not happy about how they played that game, right? So the thing that Jared Bednar does so well is win or lose, mainly most of the time losing if you didn't play the way you want. Rarely do they follow that up with another stinker. And the issues that they have and the problems that they have, he gets his guys to correct those things or change their things, make the adjustments. Some people get on him for not making adjustments in game, and I think that's maybe a little bit fair. He's a little bit stingy on no, I'm going to play our game, and because it's proven to be successful. Where he makes his changes is the off day. And I think you saw that in this game. I think the Avs, they were outshot. Minnesota outshot them, but and Scott Wedgwood needed to show up in some of those saves, especially late. You know, that late power play that Minnesota had. So again, it wasn't perfect, but it was a much better defensive effort by the Avalanche, and especially on Quinn Hughes.
Yeah,
like Hughes is an elite player, and he's going to get his looks. It's that Michael Jordan mentality of like, you can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him. And I thought the Avs contained Quinn Hughes in this game. I thought they did a fantastic job against him. So defensively, they knew they had to improve, and they did. Offensively, this team is so confident offensively. It's, you know what I mean? Like, short, like 9 goals. Yeah, we can sit here and be like, oh, you can't expect that. You can't expect 9 goals, but this team expects to put goals in the net on a nightly basis. And if you watched Locked On NHL and the short video I sent in, I got the math wrong, because that the late Val Nichushkin empty netter with 4 seconds left, I miscalculated. The Avs now have 14 goals in these 2 games by 13 different players. The only guy that has multiple goals is Cale Makar. He got 2 goals in that first goal, or that first game. So in that short, I said 13 by 12, bump those up 1. 14 goals by 13 different players. How do you hate that? If you're an Avalanche fan, like that is, and I said in the video, it's tough then for Minnesota to really, sure, you're going to zero in on Nathan MacKinnon. You're going to zero in on the top line on the Marty Natchez and stuff like that. But, and you alluded to it a couple minutes ago, like top to bottom, this team can hurt you. And they are doing it. That, like, game 1 was a weird, freakish game. Game 2 for the Avs is more of what they want to do.
Yeah.
You have some open ice, and so much different than round 1. I hated playing against the Kings. You swept them, but I hated playing against them for 4 games. I hated it. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like, it's like you are out in the ocean, and the Avs offense is just wave after wave after wave. And unless you are actively swimming and moving your legs, moving your arms, trying to stay above water, if you're just floating out there, you're getting pulled under. Like there just is there's nothing that you can do short of just hoping that the Waves stop, which they're not going to. Like you have to actively fight the onslaught of Waves coming at you. If you try to just outlast it, you're doomed.
It's tough. It is tough. Why don't we get a break in? And then obviously there's a lot more to break down on this game. So stick around, and Seth and I more to dive into on this game to win for the Avalanche over the Minnesota Wild. We'll do that next.
Hello, I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks, and as a father, I want to make sure that my kids will be protected in case the unimaginable happens. When my wife and I sat down to discuss life insurance, we found that Ethos was our best option. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. Get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You get up to $3 million in coverage with some policies as low as $30 a month. And you know you're going to get the lowest rate from their network of trusted carriers. So take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonNHL. That's ethos.com/lockedonNHL. Applications times vary. Rates may vary.
All right. Also brought to you by Quo. Missed calls and slow follow-ups are silent killers for businesses. That's how money gets left on the table without people even realizing it. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. You spell that Quo, the business communication systems that are built so you never miss a call. Quo helps businesses keep every conversation organized by letting your entire team manage calls and texts from one shared number. No more dropped messages, missed opportunities, or disconnected communications. It's designed for how modern businesses actually operate. So money is on the line. Always say hello with Quo. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off of your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That is QUO.com/lockedonnhl. Check out Quo today. All right. So I was thinking about it, like and I mentioned it in the first segment, like the difference between round one against the Kings and round two against the Wild, and just how it's nice that the Avs can like get, some open ice. Are you a Seinfeld fan? Did you watch Seinfeld? You did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Do you remember that episode when Kramer adopted a highway?
Yeah.
Right. And he wanted to make the lanes more luxurious, so he removed he painted over the white lines. And then like later in the episode, Elaine is driving and she's like, "Oh, this is so luxurious. Like there's so much space." Like round one was tight lanes.
Yeah.
Round two is a little bit more open for the Avalanche. That plays into their style of play. And we'll get into like changes and stuff like that in the third segment, because we have 3 days to talk about it. Love that scheduling. But yeah, like you were talking about it in the first segment. I just feel like this series is benefiting the Avs. And while the Wild they have offensive abilities of their own, I always go back to, and Zach and I talked about it throughout the season, like when the Avs are on their game, it is going to be tough to beat them 4 times in a series.
Yeah.
You might get them a couple times. You might push them to the brink a couple times. But if they can play their game, that is it. Like if you're Minnesota, you can't just sit around and hope that the Avalanche have a bad night. If you do, take advantage of it. If not, you got to play your best game too.
Yeah.
And for these 2 games, I mean, game one is what it is. But this style right here, if the Avs can play this, they are a tough out.
The funny thing is, I know there were comments, I believe it was by Gabriel Landeskog after round one, talking about the Wild, saying, they present a different challenge than the Kings do because the Kings did not get their defensemen engaged in the play once the whole series. And it's understandable from the Kings' perspective because compared to the Wild, I don't think the Kings have as much offensive firepower to work with. So they had to base their game entirely off of defense and physicality. The Wild, they've got Kirill Kaprizov, they've got Matt Boldy, they've got Quinn Hughes. So you don't have to play as much of that, like you don't have to play as much of that physical, like grind it out, but you can't you can't try to track meet it with the Avs. The Wild are going to have to try to slow the pace down at least a little bit. Like this is, I use the analogy of, we're going to use a couple of sports analogies here tonight because I have a few that come to mind for this Wild team. But for the Wild to be able to contend in this series, they're going to have to do what you do, like when you're playing, say, the Kansas City Chiefs, the air raid offense. You got to go ball control. You have to, you have to have extended possessions, extended shifts in the offensive zone. That's where the physicality has to come in, is winning those battles along the boards, keeping the puck alive and turning. There were so many one and dones in game 2. You have to turn those into 2 or 3 shots at a time. You have to get shots on the net. You have to get to the rebounds. That's where the physicality can be that's where it can be an advantage. But if you try to hit the Avs like the Wild hit the Stars in round 1, well, we've seen through 2 games, it's pretty hard to catch them. So that's where you can use the physicality to your advantage, but you have to be able to keep the puck longer and get multiple shots on different possessions in the offensive zone. That's the only way that they have a chance to win this series.
Yeah, and there was a point, Eric Johnson, who was between the benches, made a
elite,
comment,
by the way.
Isn't he great?
So good.
He's very good. He's better than I thought he was going to be, and I thought he was going to be good. He's much better. He made a comment. We're talking about how great he is. I didn't really agree with. He said, and maybe he was talking more of like maybe that moment, but he said something about how the Wild were like one and done too much in this game. I thought the Wild had some pretty good possessions. They just didn't end in solid looks.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of maybe the frustrating part if you're a Wild fan of we're in. I thought even though the Avs were leading after 1, I thought the Wild had a better first period. And they had good possessions, winning some puck battles, winning some 50-50 battles, but it didn't materialize into anything. So I think that's where the Avalanche were like, we'll body you up. We'll get a man-on-man, but you're not going anywhere if you do win that battle. So I think for Minnesota, it's how do we do that? And by the way, the Avs don't have Josh Manson. They haven't had Josh Manson in these 2 games too. So he's one of their better defense, hard-hitting defensemen.
Key defenseman on that roster.
Yeah, big body that makes life difficult for opponents. So I don't know when he's going to come back. Bednar is kind of keeping that hush-hush. I don't know if he's going to be there for game 3 or not. But the Avs have this idea of doesn't matter who's in. We're playing. You got Nick Blankenberg, who's like a foot lower than Josh Manson, and he's doing the same things that Josh Manson's expected to do, believe it or not. He's going against Nick Foligno, who's like towers over him. You know what I mean? So either of the Folignos. So, for the Avs, it's playing a game. But like you said, the power play or the special teams, it's no secret for the Avs. It's struggle. The penalty kill has been great for them. The power play has been a struggle. And they are taking advantage of Minnesota struggling with a penalty kill right now. So that's great for the Avs because it didn't matter. If it didn't matter for the Avs if they were going up against a team that did struggle with a penalty kill, the Avs were just as bad on their power play. And that just made a bad penalty kill look good. They did that against the Kings. But they're taking advantage of right now, and look at the difference. If you're an Avs fan, you have to love how the power play is operating.
It was coming into this series. I said this was Zach in the series preview, season preview, man. I said this in the series preview. The Wild penalty kill versus the Avs power play was the stoppable force versus the movable object. And so far, the Avs power play has been moving the Wild penalty kill all over the place. Even though one of the goals that they scored in game 1 was technically after the power play expired, it still counts.
Right.
Still counts in my mind.
Yeah, no, it's true. They've looked good, but did you not think this game was heading down the road of game one? The way this thing started,
Yep.
you get the Nature's backhand that goes in 6 seconds later. Like you don't even get time to celebrate that thing, and you're like, here we go again.
We didn't even have time to hear the iconic pipes of Alan Roach
Yeah.
announcing the goal before Kirill Kaprizov. And at that point, when it was 1-1, I said, get all the women and children out of the first 5 rows. This is going to be another bloodbath. We're going to get a 10-8. And this series is just going to have the most goals in NHL history in a playoff series in the first 3 games.
It was great. And like you said, like the Wild, 31 shots on goal for the Wild. Avs traditionally are not the best face-off team. I don't know if you saw the percentages for this one yet.
Not great.
63% wins for the Avs. I know people are always like, yeah, face-offs don't mean anything. Face-offs are situational. You know what I mean? Like center ice, who cares?
I use a Kirk Cousins quote for face-offs. It's not the face-offs themselves. It's what the face-offs represent.
I like that.
That is the thing with face-offs for me is when you lose a game and it's because you got just carved in the dot and you gave up a couple of special teams goals, you couldn't score on the power play because you lost all those face-offs. Yeah, that's a situation in which they matter. This Wild team throughout the last several years, they've made it kind of a regular occurrence of getting beat in the dot regularly and still finding ways to win the games. So you can overcome it, but I think the bigger issue here that is something that was a concern of mine coming into this series was that the Avs have the better depth down the middle by a large margin. And with Roope Hintz out of the lineup, the Wild were able to pull that towards at least neutral and slightly in their favor. Not the case here. You are outgunned down the middle, and you have to at least try to hold serve in the face-off dot to at least kind of help sway things back in the Wild's favor.
All right, well, let's get our last break in, and then there's a question I want to ask you that was running around in our Discord, in our Locked On Avalanche Discord, and I want to get your take on it because it was a good question, good conversation. I want to get your take on that, and then what do we do over the next 3 days? What are some changes that need to be made? So we'll do that after this.
Today's crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Avalanche is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Cotton Candy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. And if you are operating with the late start times, like the NHL tends to do when you're in the central time zone, and you have to work early in the morning, you're going to need to pick me up. 5 Hour Energy Cotton Candy brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy taste you remember with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. It is so convenient and compact too. You grab one on your way out the door and you've got the pick-me-up you need to get through the workday. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5 Hour Energy Shots. Available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon.
All right, so over on our Discord chat, which you can sign up for the Everydayer Club, lockedonavalanche.supercast.com or lockedonwild.supercast.com. Sign up for those today. There, at the end of the first, you heard, I think it was Eric Johnson who said it, who said, you know, if you're the Wild, you have to be feeling good about being down 2-1 right now. Are you sick of hearing that? Or did it make sense? Like, because you always hear like this thing, it's like, oh, this is a Stanley Cup playoff. This is a Stanley Cup game matchup. If that's the case, like, I get what he's saying in general terms. But do you think there's truth to that? Because I'm hearing that so much these playoffs of the visiting team. Oh, they're down, but they're happy to be down 1-0 or just down a goal. I don't know, man. Like, do you buy into that, or are you the type who's like, no, like we're a Stanley Cup pushing team. We should be maybe winning. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just a good conversation we had going on in the Discord about that. And it was, I thought it was true.
I'm a strict circumstances guy for
Right.
that scenario. Tonight, with the Avs taking the 2-1 lead midway through the first, I was saying to a group chat that I'm in, I was like, you got to hold here. You got to hold it at 2-1. And so in that instance, I would say that, yes, I breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief being down 2-1 after one. But there are some times, if you have a bunch of opportunities, like if the Wild would have just peppered the net the back half of that period and not been able to score, and EJ would have said that and said, you got to be feeling fortunate down 2-1, I would have been like, respectfully, you should have tied that up. So it depends on the circumstances, like especially as a road team too. Like if you go into an arena, Ball Arena in particular, which has been a weapon for the Avs over the last several seasons in particular. I'll take down anything. I'll take down one goal in the first or the second 10 times out of 10 because things, pun fully intended, things tend to snowball when you are going up against a team that is that good in 5-on-5. So the fact that the Wild were able to kind of steady themselves after, like, I was catatonic after the first goal allowed, because I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get ice cold Filip Gustavsson tonight. And once the Avs scored to take the 2-1 lead, I was like, okay,
there it goes.
So it's a roller coaster, especially with the goaltending the Wild have had in this round so far. Like, I'm at this point, I'm just happy to still be breathing, I guess. But I get it.
Yeah. I get, and you're right. It is like situational, because if you were the team that's, like you said, just peppering Wedgwood, and you should have 3 goals or 4 goals and be like, you're not going to be like, oh, we're happy to be down. Like, I get it.
I'll put it this way though. If I ever hear that at Grand Casino Arena, the Wild should feel fortunate to only be down by 1. I'm going to say, you're at home. What are you doing?
Right.
Like, get it out of here.
I don't know. Maybe it was just because I think it just got brought up because it's getting said so much. It just seems like it's getting said so much for some reason, these playoffs. So, so what do we got? We got a 3-day break here, which is kind of uncommon for playoff hockey. I guess there's some events going on in Minnesota in their arena where they really had no choice. Like, couldn't do anything about it. So
funny story too.
Okay.
Michael Russo actually did some digging into that. It turns out the TV network wanted the 3-day break. Ask me why that makes sense.
Would it be so ESPN or TNT? Like, what's the next one on?
I
don't know what it. Well, let me see.
I think it's TNT.
I can check quickly. So they asked for it.
I think they were fine with the 3-day break.
It says TNT,
which just seems weird because,
I mean, I guess because that pushes it to Saturday.
Yeah,
and that's more eyes on a Saturday, because.
But then, like,
I mean, you can't do it Thursday, right?
Game on a Saturday. Have a matinee game on a Saturday if you want to push it back.
That's true. But I don't know what the other options were, because you can't do it Thursday because I guess the what's the PWHL team?
The Frost.
The Frost. I was going to say the Storm. The Frost. And then what's Friday?
There's a concert of some sort.
Okay. I don't know. Was Minnesota thinking they were not going to make the playoffs or something, and they scheduled these things?
I jokingly said that when you're not used to going to the second round, I mean, you kind of start to make plans before things happen.
Yeah.
Can I workshop a theory for you?
Go for it.
You being a Denver fan, I think you're going to know a little bit about what I'm talking about. This Minnesota Wild team right now feels like that Minnesota Timberwolves team that beat the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs for the first time, where they were built in a particular way to beat a key division rival, a la the Dallas Stars.
Mm-hmm.
They advance, but they get they go up against another team that is kind of in their own hemisphere, and it's like we still got some work to do.
Right. It's funny. There's people who listen to this this podcast daily who probably are laughing right now because you asked me an NBA question. I do not watch the NBA, Seth. I do not like the NBA. I don't watch the NBA. I get my NBA information from Zach. So he fills me in on what's going on in the NBA. But I say that kind of jokingly. Like, I know what's going on. But I think so. You're saying the Wild went up against, because who did the Timberwolves play in? Well, was that round one? Was the Nuggets?
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
This was like 3 years ago, I think.
Oh, I thought you were talking about just now.
No,
okay.
they made a bunch of trades because they had previously played the Nuggets and they lost. So then they made a bunch of trades in the offseason. They went up against the Nuggets again. They beat them, massive accomplishment, and then they go to the next round and they get worked.
Okay. All right. I do remember that now that you said you're bringing that up. I do remember when that happened. So,
and it feels like that's kind of where this team is at. Because even though you get Quinn Hughes, you bring him into the fold, and he has made a massive difference. Like we're seeing the difference down the middle. Does Joel Eriksson Ek in the lineup help that? Yes, he does. But even with Joel Eriksson Ek in the lineup, you still are at a disadvantage down the middle. And that's something that the Wild are just going to have to finally, once and for all, Austin Matthews, finally going to have to once and for all address that this offseason.
Whoa. You just said that. Is that something? Is that
I'm bringing it full. I am manifesting it into full existence. It's similar to, though there's no tie whatsoever, but it's similar to the Sidney Crosby to the Avs manifest.
Right.
There's really no tie to Minnesota other than that he likes playing with Quinn Hughes. They've been Olympic teammates. They've been Four Nations teammates. I'm just manifesting a legitimate 1C this offseason.
You can't tell me those guys don't talk during those events, Four Nations and Olympics. So but does the rigged NHL draft, does that change the lottery draft? Does that change the mindset of Austin Matthews?
If John Chyka trades it, I have a feeling Austin Matthews is probably not going to be too happy.
There's no way, is there? No.
Probably not.
Not with McKenna. I mean, if we are going way off. This is an off-season discussion, which we need to have. I do want to ask you this, and we'll kind of wrap on this. You saw in the third period, things got a little bit chippy there. Like in the first couple periods, and really for even the first game, you had your normal scrums, nothing really egregious, but you had some haymakers getting thrown. Parker Kelly punched a ref.
Smashed that ref right in the beak.
Yeah. So you started seeing even like the second period was just kind of like not a mundane period, but I think it was PK Subban who was accurate. It was like that seemed like a regular season period. That wasn't like a playoff. But the third period, things picked up a little bit. You think we see that a little bit more from Minnesota being down 2-0, trying to get under the skin of the Avs a little bit more?
I think so. I think you're going to see the claws come out, so to speak. And I mean that with fully acknowledging there's really no bad blood between these teams. Like this is not the same situation as Wild Stars or Wild Jets, where those teams have some things that have built up that they are trying to actively work through. But I think the Wild are just they're going to have to approach game 3 like they are that feral cat that you corner in an alley. They're going to fight their way out of it. They're going to have to, because a series is not truly over until a team loses on home ice. Right. That when you start to get that flip, and the Avs, as they were expected to, they won both games at home. Now the Wild have to do the same. And if the Wild lose one of these 2 games at home, that's a very tough hill to try to climb out of. Because at that point, you will have given up 3 wins to the Avs. You got 1 life left. So I think we will see the Wild try to channel that intensity But again, like I think that was one of the things that was so refreshing about game one was just it was all about the hockey. Like it wasn't a penalty parade. Game two wasn't as much. There were a few penalties called,
Right.
but it wasn't a penalty parade like we saw in round one against the Stars. And I don't know. I don't think we're going to see that same kind of thing, but I do think we're going to see an intense Wild team in game three.
I think so. I think, when you're the team that's down, you have to kind of be the aggressors and try to impose your will and make the other team play your brand of hockey. It's a tall task for, like you said, for this Avs team to make the Avs play any other style than they're used to playing. They can, they showed you in round one, they can play a grind out game against the Kings. They can play run and gun like you saw in game one. They can morph into whatever they need to do. So that's not to say that Minnesota just like the series is not over. I know, like you said, Avs did what they needed to do. They took care of home ice. Now Minnesota's going to try to do the same. And then when it flips back to Colorado, just see if he can steal one. That's the mindset of the Wild. Avalanches, we're up 2-0. Now we want to steal one and make life. It's just this head game going back and forth. Mm-hmm. That's why NHL playoffs are the best.
The best.
Cannot beat them. So, all right, man. Enjoy the next 3 days. Go on a little vacation. Take some time off. And then, we'll get back to this thing on Saturday. So throw out where people can follow you and follow the show.
We have Locked on Wild available on all of your favorite social platforms and on YouTube. We kind of lucked out. Just search Locked on Wild. Pretty easy. Wow. But we'll be kind of trying to rally the troops for game three at home and trying to get all the positive vibes that we can, and more importantly, what needs to change, what can change. We'll comb over the lineup again, and we'll really dive into this one.
It's good stuff. All right, and same over here. Follow us on all the socials, LOPN_Avalanche, Locked on Avalanche. Just search it. You'll find us. So and follow along. All right. That is going to wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in to the crossover episode of Locked on Wild, the Locked on Avalanche. We'll see everybody. Well, I'm sure you're going to record tomorrow as well, right? Yeah. So we'll have fresh episodes for everybody tomorrow. Looking forward to game 3 in Minnesota.